Sora found himself in a mysterious, unfamiliar place. As he looked around, a sense of melancholy washed over him. The entire island seemed to float in smoke. It was a sky island, shrouded in mist, filled with ruined Western-style buildings. The place felt lifeless, as if no one had ever lived there. Amid the thick smoke, Sora noticed a shadowy figure and wondered if it was human. As the figure became clearer, it revealed itself to be a muscular man who looked directly at Sora and told him to come. He said he would be waiting at the edge of the abyss. Suddenly, Sora's eyes snapped open. The dream had ended, breathing heavily. That strange dream had returned again. From outside his room, his dad called out, reminding him they would be late. Sora quickly responded, saying he was coming. As he got up, he thought about the man from his dream and the abyss. Something about them felt familiar. While brushing his teeth, he stared at himself in the mirror and questioned whether he had been studying too much lately. Just then, his dad walked in, placed a hand on his head and asked if he had overslept. Sora protested, saying he wasn't a kid anymore and that he was already 15. His dad teased him, showing off his muscular body. Sora turned away, annoyed, saying he wouldn't have to see his dad naked every day if they didn't live in such a small apartment. His dad laughed and promised that once he became rich, they'd live in a big house, and both Sora and Riku would have their own rooms. But Sora reminded him that he had been saying the same thing for 5 years. His dad mentioned how life had become easier after Riku joined the self-defense force. Sora reflected on that. It had already been 3 years since his brother joined. He planned to join the SDF too someday. And when that time came, he knew he'd have to say goodbye to this cheerful life. To his dad, who always joked around despite being unreliable, and to his mom, who seemed strict but deeply loved them. Their presence brought comfort. He wished this peaceful life could last forever. But deep down, he always knew it wouldn't. He just hadn't expected it to end the way it did. That's when the tower appeared. Back then, he didn't know just how much the tower would change the course of human history. But he did know one thing. The tower was somehow connected to his dreams. Later, Riku appeared in a video call, assuring their parents that he would follow the SDF's instructions and return home soon. But to Sora, Riku's voice sounded weak. That night, Sora lost contact with his brother. The news had claimed there would be no danger as long as everyone stayed indoors, but it wasn't long before even the news stopped broadcasting. Now, the same message kept looping on the radio. Soon after, an evacuation order was issued. Sora's mom left a letter behind for Riku before she and Sora headed to the shelter. On the way there, the world around them felt like it was warning them of something terrible. The soldiers in passing vehicles looked defeated. Their trucks bore deep claw marks, and the smell of rot poured out from within. Inside the gymnasium-turned shelter, crowds of refugees gathered. Yet the silence was suffocating. People had stopped speaking, as if waiting for the end. But even in this tense quiet, some stirred trouble, desperate to be noticed. One man angrily confronted a young boy, accusing him of stealing bread. The boy denied it, but the man insisted that everyone was only given one piece and accused the boy of already eating his share. He kicked the child in the stomach, claiming he wasn't full yet and declaring the boy's bread as his own until the situation ended. The boy, intimidated, agreed. Before things could escalate further, Sora's father stepped in, questioning the man's actions in such a dire situation. The man told him to mind his own business. But Sora's dad demanded the bread be returned. As the man tried to punch him, Sora's dad countered with a powerful kick to his stomach, knocking him down. He picked up the bread and handed it back to the child, who thanked him. Sora's father glared at the bully, who grew uneasy, got up, and left while muttering that he'd remember this. Sora approached his father, who reassured him that he'd keep an eye on the man. In his thoughts, Sora vowed to never forget Eiji Kagawa, the man who had once bullied him and seemed to enjoy it. Suddenly, a soldier rushed in and made an urgent announcement. Everyone had to leave the shelter through the back and board the trucks. One man wearing sunglasses demanded to know why. The soldier apologized, saying he couldn't explain. The man grew furious, questioning the government's silence after forcing people into lockdown and then into shelters without explanations. Another soldier rushed in, panic clear in his voice. "They're here," he warned, urging everyone to run. Sora quickly told his parents to hurry. A deep sense of dread gripped him. At the front gate, a soldier struggled to hold it shut, shouting that he couldn't hold them back any longer and urging everyone to get into the vehicles. The gate burst open. Monsters broke through. Sora stared at them in horror, unable to comprehend what was happening. The monsters broke into the shelter, sending waves of panic through the crowd as people started running in terror. Sora's parents urged him to flee immediately. Everyone rushed toward the trucks waiting outside, trying to escape. As chaos intensified, Sora shoved his parents into one of the vehicles, knowing it couldn't hold many more people. He insisted they get on first. His father reached out, attempting to pull Sora inside, but a man behind them shoved his father and told him not to bother, claiming the truck was already full. Seeing no other option, Sora ran off, determined to find a different vehicle. But each truck he approached was already at capacity. Finally, he spotted one last truck and pushed toward it, just as someone inside extended a hand to help him up. Grabbing the hand, Sora whispered a grateful thanks, until he looked up and realized who it was. It was Eiji Kagawa, the same man his father had confronted earlier. Sora was stunned and horrified, unable to believe his misfortune. Eiji responded with a shove, shouting cruelly and cursing him for existing. Sora was thrown off the truck, crashing to the ground. As more people surged toward the truck, they trampled over him without mercy. In the midst of the crowd, a strange spirit-like figure appeared. Sora instantly recognized the mysterious man from his dream. The figure repeated his earlier words. He would be waiting at the edge of the abyss. Suddenly, everything changed. Sora jolted, confused and disoriented. He wondered if it had all just been a dream. But before he could make sense of it, an attack came from beside him. A goblin appeared, weapon raised, forcing Sora to flee in fear. His mind raced with panic. He couldn't find his parents. He was completely alone. Was this hell? Had he already died? The goblin continued its pursuit, relentlessly chasing him. As it hurled a stone in his direction, Sora screamed inside, overwhelmed by everything. His ejection from the truck, the mysterious tower, the strange old man, and now this monster. Fueled by desperation and rage, he grabbed a rock and struck the goblin down, killing it. He breathed heavily, realizing he had survived. Up close, the creature looked like something straight out of a video game. Strange black text appeared on its chest. Then, a black stone emerged from the goblin's body and shot into Sora's own. He felt the energy surge through him. His wounds healed instantly. He could feel himself becoming stronger. It seemed like defeating enemies made him level up, just like in a game. But he couldn't afford to get careless. There could be more of those monsters nearby. He carefully scouted the island, making a full lap, but found no more creatures and no other path forward. The only option left was the one that lay ahead. Standing atop the floating island, he looked down at the smoky abyss below. Suspended stairs floated around the edge, leading down into the unknown. The sight was ominous. Cautiously, Sora began his descent. He knew that in a game, such terrain usually meant monsters lurked nearby. In a game, a fall would mean a respawn. But here, he wasn't ready to test that theory. Eventually, the stairs ended, and he stepped into a chamber where a single torch was burning in the dark. Sora approached the torch and noticed something engraved on a stone nearby. The characters were unfamiliar, yet their meaning flowed effortlessly into his mind. The inscription read that the fragments belonged to their bearers, and by collecting all of them, one would earn the right to leave the abyss. Realizing this place was the abyss, Sora understood he had to gather all the fragments to escape. Fully motivated, he reassured himself that the previous monster wasn't very strong. Determined to survive and get out, he opened the door ahead. The first layer of the abyss covered an area of 900 square meters. The number 1 was carved into the monster he had faced there. The second layer expanded to 1,800 square meters, and one of the monsters bore the number 2. The third layer spanned 3,600 square meters, and 1 out of 4 monsters carried the number 3. These fragments only existed in the bodies of numbered monsters and served as keys to reach the next layer. As the numbers increased, the monsters grew stronger. Keys became harder to find. Each new layer doubled in size, and the number of monsters doubled as well. But Sora grew stronger too. With each ascent, monster types diversified. On the 12th floor, he encountered the same creatures that had once attacked the shelter. But now, they no longer posed a threat to him. As the monsters increased, his senses began to dull. By the time he reached the 30th floor, the number of monsters had reached 500 million. Finding the key felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. Some key-bearing monsters were guarded by entire groups, while others hid deep within small caves. The most exhausting part was how long it took to eliminate them all. Still, he never stopped moving forward. Eventually, Sora reached the 42nd layer, where over 2,000 billion monsters awaited him. He looked at the massive swarm and grinned, as if chaos itself had gone on sale. The uglier the monsters looked, the more excited he became. This was his battlefield. After some time, he carved a mark into a giant wall, wondering what year it was, but quickly dismissed the thought. Time had lost all meaning. Only death and massacre remained. The death of monsters and his endless slaughter. Suddenly, a group of monsters attacked from behind. Sora swiftly turned and eliminated them with ease. He questioned how many monsters he had slain so far and decided to keep cutting through them, hoping to finally find the key. At that moment, a massive dragon-like monster burst through the giant wall. Seeing its entrance, Sora guessed it might be the key. The monster lunged at him, but Sora leaped forward and launched his own attack. No matter how strong the opponent appeared, they all died in a single strike. And just like that, he took it down with one blow. But victory brought no thrill. For Sora, power had lost its meaning. With rising frustration, he shouted into the void, demanding the 42nd layer's key to reveal itself. He had grown tired of waiting. In 2026, 20 towers suddenly appeared across the world. Before humanity could comprehend them, monsters began pouring out and nearly drove mankind to extinction. Most of the population was slaughtered. That day became known as Judgment Day. A handful of survivors awakened and gained access to a mysterious system. These awakened individuals were granted overwhelming power. Human society was eventually rebuilt, and the awakened founded hunter guilds to maintain order. Elsewhere, Sora chased after a wolf-like monster, demanding to see its stats. Suddenly, he heard a voice alerting someone to stop the summon, mentioning the use of an advanced transfer scroll. Hearing this, Sora paused in shock, recognizing the voice as human. Glancing toward the sky, he saw a glowing light and wondered if it was the exit. Without hesitation, he leapt toward it. A warning message appeared stating that abyssal summoning couldn't transfer more than 2 living beings. Determined, Sora vowed not to let anyone stand in his way. Meanwhile, just outside a city on Earth, Yu Sonozaki, a level 19 awakened, ran desperately trying to shake off her pursuers. Her foot got caught and she fell to the ground, realizing the danger she was in. 3 hunters approached her. Shosei Toshida, a level 38 barbarian, demanded the advanced transfer scroll. Choji Shido, a level 35 swordsman, mocked her for holding a level 60 scroll and threatened her to hand it over. Aika, a level 34 druid, warned them not to kill her. Panicked, Yu reminded them that hunter-on-hunter combat was forbidden and accused them of breaking the rules. Shosei dismissed the rules, declaring himself the one in charge, and held his massive sword in front of her, threatening to leave her intact only if she handed over the scroll. Yu warned them not to push her further. Aika panicked, realizing Yu was about to use a forced summon, and urged them to stop her. Enraged, Shosei attacked Yu with his sword, but she activated teleportation just in time. Using forced summon, Yu shouted that if she had to die, she would take them down with her. Seeing this, Aika was terrified. She knew no one could control an advanced monster summoned this way. Choji rushed forward, yelling for them to stop her. Yu cried out, unleashing the summon. A portal opened in the sky, radiating a powerful energy that made Shosei nervous. A beam of light shot down from the portal, and from it emerged a level 3 Cerberus. The hunters burst into laughter, mocking the creature and ridiculing Yu for risking her life over such a weak monster. But suddenly, the Cerberus was sliced clean in half. Shocked, they realized the attacker was a humanoid monster. Yu turned around. And there was Sora, laughing like a cartoon villain who just survived a microwave. Covered in chaos and questionable life choices, he looked like escaping that place was both a miracle and a terrible idea. Sora's laughter echoed with such intensity that the winds around him began to stir violently. Watching him laugh, Shosei felt a chill run through his body, admitting that just hearing that sound made him freeze. Aika, confused, questioned his identity. Sora approached her and asked if the place was Earth. Aika confirmed it, and Sora, overwhelmed with relief, smiled and declared that he had finally returned. Looking at the others, Sora casually asked if they were cosplaying. But the group didn't take his words lightly. They attacked with their weapons, declaring themselves members of the Tiger's Roar Guild. However, their weapons shattered upon contact with Sora, who then glared at them in anger. Shosei called him a monster. Hearing the word monster, Sora suddenly began to hallucinate, seeing Shosei as a terrifying creature. Without hesitation, Sora grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground, demanding to see his number. Shosei, confused and terrified, couldn't understand what he meant. Sora let him go, and in sheer panic, Shosei lost control and wet his pants. Sora then ordered all of them to leave. Fearing for their lives, the group fled the scene. Yu stared at Sora, shocked by his strength and the deep scars across his body. She wondered who he truly was and whether someone like him could really have been summoned from the abyss. Sora turned to Yu and asked how long it had been since the towers appeared. Yu replied that it had been 5 years. Sora, still in disbelief, demanded to know if this was truly Earth and questioned her about the scroll and her unusual outfit. Yu explained that ever since the towers appeared, a mysterious system had also emerged for humans. She then showed him the system, which displayed that since the appearance of the towers 5 years ago, a third of the city had fallen. Hearing this, Sora reflected on how much the world had changed during his time in the abyss. Yu revealed that S City had suffered the 7th major invasion, and she had escaped from there. Sora was stunned. S City was his birthplace. He quickly asked about its current condition. Yu informed him that S City was completely destroyed, but strong individuals had been deployed there to deal with the monsters. Sora immediately asked for directions. Yu pointed the way, and without a word, Sora rushed off. Watching him disappear, Yu thought about how mysterious he was and resolved to inform her sister. Meanwhile, the injured members of the Tiger's Roar Guild stumbled into the city. As they recovered, a mysterious man appeared before them. Sensing something strange, he asked where the person they encountered was. He gave them 3 seconds to answer, sensing Sora's presence on them. The group panicked. Shosei, still trembling, asked what was happening. But before they could respond, the man killed them all instantly, declaring that their time was up. At the Tiger's Roar Guild headquarters, a woman reported that there were no signs of life from Master Toshida's group of 4, and the location of Sonozaki and the scroll remained unknown. A man sitting before her expressed his frustration. He criticized the group she had recommended, shocked that they couldn't defeat a level 19 summoner. He pointed out that all their signals had gone silent at the same time. They were killed in a single blow. This man was Richt Mukai, level 118. Richt ordered her to find out who was responsible and to capture Sonozaki, demanding an explanation. He warned that anyone who harmed his men would pay the price. As he moved toward the window, he spotted someone leaping across the distance. It was Sora. Catching a whiff of blood in the air, Richt questioned who that was, wondering why someone would be coming from a fallen zone. He realized this invasion was on an entirely different scale. The long-dormant tower was finally stirring. There was no doubt now, powerful forces were at play. Richt immediately declared an emergency and ordered all search parties to fall back. Meanwhile, Sora arrived in the fallen zone of S City. Looking around, he reflected on the hellish transformation the place had undergone during his 5 years in the abyss. In that otherworldly place, he had once been weak but grew strong. With dulled senses, he had almost become a beast. But thoughts of his family kept him going. The monsters that once terrified him now seemed insignificant. As he pressed forward, one thought burned in his mind. Dad, Mom, brother, please be safe. As Sora walked toward his home, his thoughts drifted to how lively S City once was. Now, it lay in ruins, buildings shredded as if struck by a massive quake. There were no signs of monsters killing anyone, and ever since the evacuation, no humans were supposed to live here. Upon reaching his house, Sora stepped inside. The place was in terrible shape. Though he had expected it to be empty, he came anyway, because the house held countless happy memories. His eyes fell on a letter resting on the table. He picked it up and began reading. It said that although everyone believed he was dead, his parents refused to accept it. They had returned to the house, set up his belongings exactly like before, and were waiting for his return. Tears welled up in Sora's eyes. His parents had risked their lives to return here for him. The letter mentioned that they had laid out his favorite clothes from size S to L, so whenever he returned, he could change into something clean. A map to Shelter 6 was kept in the drawer. His parents asked him to come find them once he read the letter and promised they would always be waiting. Moved by the letter, Sora pulled out a knife and wondered how strong he had become. If he was now powerful enough to end the apocalypse, maybe he could reclaim his lost days. With that thought, he cut his long hair. Determined, he looked at the map and decided to head east, straight to Shelter 6. The roads were ruined, but making his own path seemed faster. On his way, he killed a large bird-type monster and kept moving forward. Meanwhile, 2 guards stood at their post. One thought he heard a loud sound, but the other dismissed it, blaming it on boredom and possible drunkenness. Suddenly, Sora leapt past them at incredible speed. One of them was shocked, unable to see what it was. A third person arrived and showed them a recording. They all stared in disbelief. It looked like a person flying. Elsewhere, a woman begged a group not to come any closer. She pleaded for forgiveness, saying she only came in search of food. One man stepped forward, surprised to see a survivor in the wasteland. Another commented on her figure, while a third mentioned it had been a long time since they had seen a woman. Their expressions turned lustful as one claimed they were good men who would take care of her. He got close, telling her not to be scared and that he'd be gentle, saying it would be a shame not to enjoy a body like hers. At that moment, Sora appeared and called them out, disgusted by how some things never changed. One of the men, shocked, warned Sora not to interfere. He ordered his companions to attack. As they rushed at Sora, he struck one in the face, sending him crashing to the ground. He grabbed another's arm and kicked him across the jaw. Seeing this, the leader grew furious and introduced himself as a member of the Tiger's Roar Guild. He threatened that the guild wouldn't forgive Sora for laying a hand on him. Sora addressed him directly. Eiji Kagawa. He asked if Eiji had already forgotten the face of the man he once killed. Hearing that name, Eiji froze in fear. He stammered in disbelief, questioning if it was really Sora. Sora approached, and Eiji backed away, terrified, asking how he was still alive. But Sora grabbed him by the throat, declaring that he had crawled his way out of hell because of Eiji, and now it was Eiji's turn to go there. With a tighter grip, Sora thought to himself that he would tear away every shred of Eiji's dignity. This was his power now. Within him, the demonic energy whispered, urging him to kill, reminding him that he was the strongest and that everything must bend to his will. Sora stood in silence, his eyes burning with resolve. The pain, humiliation, and helplessness he had endured in the past were all because of Eiji. Now, he was ready to give it all back. But in the heat of the moment, something struck him. He loosened his grip around Eiji's neck, realizing he couldn't become the same kind of monster. Still, the thought lingered. If scum like Eiji kept breathing, others would suffer. He told Eiji that since his attempt to kill him had failed, he wouldn't return the favor. But letting him go unpunished wasn't an option either. For the 2 years of torment at school, for bullying the weak, and for the attempt on his life by pushing him off that truck, Sora decided 4 blows would settle the score. Eiji trembled at the thought, begging for mercy, convinced that even one punch from Sora in his current state could be fatal. But Sora, gripping his collar, promised to go easy. He delivered the first punch, then the second, and after the third blow, he ordered Eiji to get up. Beaten and broken, Eiji pleaded for death, but Sora responded with a kick to his face. As he stood over him, Sora evaluated the damage. Limbs lost, vision gone. It was enough. He turned to Eiji's men, ordering them to take him to a hospital and warning them never to show their faces again. Without looking back, Sora walked away. As he left, Sora thought to himself, the cleanup was done. It was time to move on. He was heading home. Meanwhile, in S City's buffer zone, a commander named Tanji Kagura sighed, wishing he was assigned to wall watch duty. A fellow soldier agreed, commenting that at least wall duty didn't involve actual monster combat. Tanji snapped back, calling him a wimp and warning him to stay alert. They couldn't predict when a monster might appear. Another soldier reassured him, saying that monsters from Area X rarely entered the buffer zone. Just staying alert should be enough. But right then, a large, shell-type monster suddenly appeared and attacked from behind. It was a level 45 beast. Tanji barked orders, telling everyone to hold formation and keep calm. The soldiers opened fire, but the monster only grew angrier. One of them realized their weapons were useless against its high-level armor. The monster retaliated, slicing one soldier in half. Panic spread, but one brave soldier charged forward with a bomb in hand, determined to take it down. As the rest of the team provided cover fire, he closed in. The monster readied its tentacles to strike, but suddenly paused. The creature drew back, shielding itself with its own limbs. Everyone stared in confusion. The commander questioned whether the monster was actually afraid. Another soldier saw the opportunity and threw the bomb, causing a massive explosion. A moment of silence followed. One soldier asked if the monster had been killed, but to their horror, it stood unharmed. Shocked, the soldier whispered that it was unscathed, something he thought was impossible. Just as the monster prepared to retaliate, Sora arrived in a flash, attacking it head-on. The soldiers watched in awe. The commander realized the truth. The monster wasn't afraid of them. It was afraid of him. The commander stared in disbelief. The monster that had survived an explosion had been killed in just one strike. Few possessed that level of S-rank destructive power. Yet he had never seen this man before. He had to find out who he was, no matter the cost. Suddenly, his system activated, informing him that a special skill, Inspect, allowed the user to view detailed information about a target. The closer the user's level was to the target, the more accurate the data would be. The commander was stunned by what he saw. A system alert followed, warning him to show respect. Confused and overwhelmed, he realized he couldn't see the stranger's information at all. The gap was too vast. His body gave out from the shock, and he collapsed as the other soldiers rushed to his aid. Nearby, Sora turned to a soldier standing beside him. He wanted to ask something. The soldier responded, and Sora inquired about the location of Evacuation Shelter 6. The soldier explained it was 50 kilometers to the north, but the only path led through Area X. Sora was unfamiliar with Area X. The soldier clarified that it was the zone where the monster rush was being held back. Monsters were being drawn there to minimize damage, and many hunters were already engaged in battle within it. As Sora observed the surroundings, he noticed the soldiers collecting drops from the defeated monster. The sight surprised him. It was just like a game. Drops existed in the real world too. He asked the soldier how powerful the monster had been. The soldier admitted that a level 45 monster was a formidable opponent. Sora pondered this, realizing even a single one posed significant difficulty. He asked how many monsters above level 45 existed in the monster rush. The soldier estimated there were no more than 100. If such monsters were common, humanity would have already perished. Sora nodded, thanked him, and began to walk away. The soldier, filled with hope, called out to him with a request. He asked Sora to go to Area X. With a strong hunter like him, many lives could be saved. Sora confirmed that the shortest route to Shelter 6 passed through Area X. When the soldier said yes, Sora agreed. While traveling through Area X, he would defeat any monsters that crossed his path. Meanwhile, at the military camp, the commander began regaining consciousness. A soldier, relieved, welcomed him back. The commander asked how long he had been out. The soldier replied that it had been around 10 minutes, and the recovery items dropped by the monsters had worked immediately. The commander quickly asked about the man who had saved them. The soldier informed him that the man had gone north. Shocked, the commander asked for confirmation. The soldier repeated that he was heading toward Evacuation Shelter 6. The commander realized that meant he was passing through Area X. The soldier confirmed it, saying the man didn't hesitate at all. Without wasting time, the commander ordered immediate contact with the Central Command Center. The soldier was confused at first, but followed orders. The commander thought to himself, there were 10 minutes left until the scheduled time. He still had a chance. The soldier returned and reported that he had already sent a message through the emergency radio. As the soldier handed the phone to the commander, he asked why they were contacting the Central Command Center. Taking the phone, the commander explained that this operation was different from the previous ones. The information was highly classified, which is why the team wasn't informed earlier. He revealed that Area X, which serves as the base for this operation, is not part of the region where they are currently holding back the monsters. Using the phone, the commander activated a hologram and established contact with Central Command. The scene shifted to the Central Command Center, where a woman informed everyone that an emergency call had come in from Area B-22. Renji Kumagaya, the Central Commander, instructed her to connect the call. She responded promptly and carried out the order. The video call connected, and the commander reported that a mysterious hunter had just entered the bombing zone, unaware of the ongoing operation. Kumagaya questioned whether the commander had called merely to admit his mistake, but the commander insisted otherwise. He firmly suggested that an emergency broadcast was necessary to inform the hunter about the impending bombing. The hunter was strong, and letting him die without warning was not an option. After hearing the situation, Major General Kumagaya questions the strength of the unknown hunter and demands to know his level. The commander admits he doesn't know. Kumagaya grows irritated. An unidentified hunter had entered a bombing zone without permission, and the commander was suggesting an emergency broadcast for him. Tonosaki interrupts, remarking that the hunter would likely be dead before the message could even be sent. Kumagaya mocks her, saying she may lack intelligence but has a knack for comedy. He accuses the unit of being poorly trained and warns that if he reports to higher authorities that the operation was obstructed, the commander would be held accountable. Tonosaki is frustrated, questioning Kumagaya's logic. They were facing an immensely powerful enemy, and yet he was willing to drag down his own allies. Meanwhile, Kagura, someone Kumagaya had trained personally, was risking the mission to save a stranger. She wonders just how powerful that hunter must be. Tonosaki confronts the commander, stating that unless he can provide a convincing reason, she will personally bring him to a military tribunal. The commander is taken aback by the threat. She then turns to Kumagaya and asks if that would be satisfactory. Kumagaya, growing angrier, demands a reason they can accept. The commander responds that the unknown man had slain a level 45 baby kraken in a single strike. Tonosaki is shocked. She declares that such a feat exceeds even A-rank standards and speculates whether he could be an S-rank hunter from the military. Kumagaya denies the possibility. All S-rank personnel were already assigned to missions, and there were no confirmed signals from B-22. Tonosaki questions the commander again. Why didn't he know the hunter's level? Shouldn't the inspect skill have revealed it? The commander explains that when he used the skill, he lost consciousness due to an information overload. This indicated the hunter was at least level 100. Kumagaya acknowledges the rarity of such strength, but insists that it's not enough to halt the operation. Eastern Commander Nobuo Yuasa supports him. He reminds everyone that they cannot neglect their military responsibilities for an uncertain cause. The operation involved thousands of troops from 4 corps. The bombing and buffer zones were heavily surrounded, and after the airstrike, ground forces would eliminate the remaining monsters. He warns that if an emergency broadcast is made, monsters would be drawn to the sound, flooding one location and causing the area to collapse instantly. Tens of thousands of soldiers would be at risk. Even if the hunter was S-rank, risking so many lives for one man was unacceptable. The commander listens in silence as Tonosaki rejects his request. She states clearly that they cannot disregard the efforts of so many people for the sake of one person. The decision is final, and the video call ends. Frustrated and angry, the commander clenches his fists. A nearby soldier tries to comfort him, saying he did all he could. The commander agrees and says the bigger picture is what truly matters. At that moment, the soldier notices a key attached to the commander's belt. Without warning, he grabs it and starts to run. The commander yells at him to stop. The bombing is about to begin. The soldier responds that 6 minutes still remain. He jumps into a car and speeds off. The commander, furious, shouts his full name, Private First Class Shoki Matsura, and threatens court-martial. But Matsura doesn't stop and drives away. Another soldier asks if they should go after him. The commander says no. The soldier made his choice and must know what he's risking. Driving fast, Matsura focuses on reaching in time. What he didn't know then was that the man he was trying to save would one day become the hope of all mankind. The soldier drove through the rough terrain, frustrated that he had lost sight of his target. He wondered how the man could have disappeared so quickly, especially since this was the fastest route. If he still couldn't find him, it meant the man was moving faster than his vehicle. Up ahead was Area X. The soldier considered blasting a message through the loudspeaker, but doing so would also alert nearby monsters. He decided it didn't matter anymore. He already saw himself as a disgrace to the army. Determined, he yelled into the loudspeaker, introducing himself as the soldier who had been helped earlier. He warned that the area was about to be bombed and urged immediate evacuation. He repeated the warning to make sure it was heard. Elsewhere, Sora heard the message and realized the reason behind the lack of hunters in the area. The monsters themselves weren't much of a threat, but he wasn't sure he could survive the heat of the bomb blast. Wanting to avoid unnecessary risk, he acknowledged the soldier's effort and decided he couldn't let the man die for him. Back on the road, the soldier arrived at the location, only to see that the monsters had indeed been attracted by his announcement. He began to drive away quickly but then hesitated, remembering the man was still out there. Just then, he spotted the monsters up ahead, and at that moment, Sora appeared, knocking on the car window. Relieved, the soldier thanked his luck that Sora was alive, but Sora demanded clarification on the bombing. The soldier checked the time and realized they were out of time. Suddenly, bombs began to fall from the planes above. A large chunk of debris flew toward them, but Sora used his power to stop it just in time. At the Central Command Center, a lady confirmed to Kumagaya that the bombing had been completed. Kumagaya ordered drones to be deployed to assess the damage and determine the direction of the surviving monsters. However, the drones showed no signs of life. This confused the team. Kumagaya demanded to know where the escaped monsters had gone. The woman reported that the monsters hadn't escaped at all. They were still inside the bombing zone, and those at the center remained completely unscathed. Shocked, Kumagaya refused to believe it. Tonosaki asked about the drone feed. As the team observed the screen, they spotted something unusual. There appeared to be a shield in the bombing zone. They wondered if the monsters had created it, but then noticed what looked like a human figure. Suddenly, the monsters attacked the drones, cutting off the feed and communications. Tonosaki was alarmed. She remembered that this wave of attacks was supposed to be different, but now it seemed the monsters were aware of their surveillance methods. Nobuo Yuasa immediately called for the evacuation of every soldier from the garrison area. Tonosaki ordered a full retreat and the reinforcement of the walls. But one of the women reported that the monsters were not heading for the walls. This led Tonosaki to question their direction. The woman confirmed they were moving toward Area B22. Tonosaki recognized this as the same area where the mysterious hunter had gone. Angrily, she demanded that all remaining drones be sent to Area B22. She needed to know what had stopped the monsters from advancing. Meanwhile, at the bombing site, the soldier stepped out of his vehicle, surprised to find himself still alive. Laughing in disbelief, he acknowledged that the bombing had stopped, but Sora warned him not to celebrate yet. If they were alive, then so were the monsters, and they were heading straight for them. Suddenly, Sora sensed something approaching and quickly pulled the soldier down. A drone zoomed past overhead. Seeing this, the soldier expressed shock, noting that monsters attacking drones was unheard of. Sora told him to save his amazement for later. It was time to run. Suddenly, a group of powerful monsters appeared. The soldier panicked as he realized that they were the highest level group in the rush, with their leader at level 90. The bombing hadn't left a single scratch on them. Convinced they were going to die, he began to lose hope. Sora reminded him that both of them were unharmed. If bombing couldn't kill the monsters, then brute force was the only option left. He told the soldier to hide in the jeep and charged toward the enemies. In a flash, Sora began taking down the high-level monsters one after another. After dealing with them, Sora moved toward the boss monster. The creature launched a powerful attack, but Sora blocked it effortlessly with one hand. As the boss tried to strike again with its other hand, Sora dodged by leaping into the air. He landed a powerful punch to the monster's face, decapitating it in an instant. Then, Sora noticed something strange. A mysterious man stood on top of the dead boss monster. Sora couldn't sense his presence earlier and was caught off guard. The man claimed he had finally found Sora. Tentacle-like appendages emerged from beneath his clothes and reattached the severed head of the boss monster. Once revived, the boss accused Sora of theft, demanding the return of what was his. Sora, confused, asked what he meant. The mysterious figure declared that stealing another's power came with a price: death. He then launched an attack on Sora, but it had no effect. Sora countered confidently, saying that such weak attacks wouldn't be enough to kill him. Suddenly, the boss monster grabbed Sora with both hands. At that moment, the mysterious figure sensed something watching them from above. He realized it wasn't Odin's raven, but a human-made imitation. Sora broke free from the monster's grip and challenged the man to come at him more seriously. He summoned his spear and charged at the figure. Just before impact, the mysterious man vanished, landing on the ground beside the boss monster and expressing his disgust at being watched by humans. He loathed their lowly creations. He unleashed his power, summoning a monster to destroy the surveillance drone in the sky. Then, he ordered all observers to be eliminated. Meanwhile, inside a nearby building, a man hiding from the monsters confirmed that his drone had been destroyed. Despite this, he had completed his mission. He realized the monsters had changed course because of Sora, the hunter who had faced the rush alone. He knew he had to inform the commander. Just then, tentacles emerged from a nearby gate and reached toward him. Startled, the man realized he had been found. Sora looked toward the building. The mysterious man laughed and ordered his monsters to kill everyone, calling them his servants. Sora began to recall the soldier's words about how a strong hunter like him could save many lives, and how that soldier had warned him about the bombing, risking everything. Leaping down from the boss monster, Sora made a decision. To defeat the enemy, he had to start by eliminating the leader. If he wanted to save lives, he had to kill his enemies swiftly. He noticed that by fusing with the man, the monster's attack power had grown stronger. From beneath the ground, the mysterious man transformed into a shadow and grabbed Sora's leg. Sora expressed his frustration at the persistence. As he looked closely, he realized the man looked exactly like him. The man then pulled a sword from his shadow, and Sora sensed a dangerous energy surge coming from it. The man declared his intent to kill Sora, calling him the Seed of the Abyss. He struck with the sword, but Sora punched his arm, snatched the weapon, and launched a counterattack. The man narrowly evaded it. Sora noticed something strange. The attack had been nullified. He wondered if it was just his imagination. The energy surrounding the sword felt eerily similar to the power of the Abyss. The mysterious figure questioned Sora, mocking him for stealing someone else's weapon. As he spoke, the sword in Sora's hand began to vanish. Sora realized it was the power of the Abyss and acknowledged that there were still many abilities tied to it he hadn't discovered. He accepted that the battle was far from over and decided to prioritize getting the soldier to safety. Sora approached the soldier sitting in the car and asked if he was okay with heights. The soldier confirmed, and Sora lifted the car onto his shoulder, announcing they were taking flight. The mysterious figure warned Sora not to underestimate the power of the Abyss. He declared that the strong weren't meant to protect the weak, but to become stronger themselves. As he said this, he summoned a massive black sphere in the sky, threatening both Sora and the soldier. Sora, understanding that the black sphere was fast and could catch up even if he ran, placed the car down and charged at the incoming attack. He struck it with a punch, hoping to destroy it, but quickly realized there was no impact. He concluded that it wasn't the true form of the enemy. Suddenly, Sora heard the soldier screaming. Looking back, he saw the mysterious figure's tentacles reaching into the car, grabbing the soldier. Sora shouted at him to get out of the car, but the tentacles had already seized him. The figure mockingly assured the soldier not to be afraid, lifting the car with his tentacles and standing atop it, taunting Sora. Sora broke the shadowy tentacles, only to discover that they had already pierced the soldier's body, killing him. The figure then pointed out that the soldier wasn't fully dead yet and was even smiling, evidence that he was using necromancy to control the body. He went on to say that watching loved ones die was a beautiful fate for someone like Sora, whom he called the Seed of the Abyss. Sora, disgusted, confronted him about his cruelty and asked if he took pleasure in destroying others' dignity. The mysterious man responded with an obsidian storm attack, claiming there was no need to state the obvious. Sora countered his arrogance, leapt forward, and slammed a punch into the tentacles, destroying them. He quickly caught the fallen soldier, apologized, and reflected on how the soldier had been dragged into the chaos. Landing on the ground, Sora dashed at the enemy and launched a powerful punch, but the figure teleported behind him and ridiculed Sora for being a rookie, unable to master the power of the abyss. Sora responded with a punch straight to his face, sending him flying. Declaring himself stronger, Sora stood his ground. Shocked, the enemy admitted he had actually been hurt. As Sora charged again, he reminded the enemy that people grow. The mysterious man, stunned by Sora's improvement, fled onto the back of the boss monster and yelled in frustration, realizing that Sora had already started mastering the power of the abyss. Sora leapt high into the air and chased him, but the man managed to escape again, admitting Sora was tougher than expected. Not backing down, Sora declared that even if he escaped him, he wouldn't escape this. With that, Sora unleashed a powerful punch directly onto the boss monster. After landing a powerful punch, Sora realized the enemy was using that same technique again. He decided to aim directly for the real body's core. Without hesitation, Sora reached into the monster and pulled out its core. As soon as he did, the boss monster's regeneration halted completely, and it was finally destroyed. Once back on the ground, Sora turned to the mysterious man and declared him as the next target. In response, the enemy activated his powers and vowed to remember this moment. He initiated a move called Shadow Unity, drawing energy from all the surrounding monsters. That energy gathered around him, forming a black hole-like vortex beneath his feet. In an instant, he vanished through it, escaping along with all the monsters. Watching this, Sora was surprised that such a powerful technique had been used just to run away. He noticed his clothes were ruined, but felt relieved that the photo of his mom and dad remained intact. Approaching the car, he opened the door and looked at the fallen soldier inside. He acknowledged that this man probably had a family waiting for him too. Sora gently took a pendant from the soldier's neck and laid his body outside the car. He promised to take him back. Deep down, Sora knew that this wasn't the end. The shadow-using enemy had absorbed too many shadows and could launch another attack anytime. Determined not to let him reach the evacuation shelter first, Sora dashed off in that direction. Meanwhile, Tonosaki arrived with the drone squad and ordered them to investigate the area thoroughly, leaving no stone unturned. She commanded all other units to stay on high alert. As the team began their search, a soldier approached her, noting the monsters had already been taken out. Tonosaki confirmed it, stating that all monsters had been defeated and instructed them to check the drone data and report every detail. As she observed the surroundings, Tonosaki noted clear signs of a fierce battle. She recalled that the powerful hunter Lieutenant Kagura mentioned had not only survived the bombing, but also eliminated every monster present. Just then, a soldier called out to her, reporting that the SD card in one of the drones was still intact. He prepared to visualize the recorded data. Tonosaki watched the footage to understand what had happened there. She saw Private First Class Matsura charging into the bombing zone, accompanied by someone she presumed was the powerful hunter. Elsewhere, during the search, a soldier stumbled upon a pile of loot. Another soldier approached him and asked what he found. Nervously, the first soldier replied that it was nothing. The second soldier accused him of lying and crouched down beside him. He questioned whether the items had been dropped by the rush boss, noting they looked rare. He reminded the first soldier that keeping loot found by the unit was a crime. The soldier then pressured him, asking if he knew what needed to be done. In response, the nervous soldier asked how the loot should be divided. The other soldier told him to relax, saying he only wanted one item. The first soldier refused, insisting that a box like that could contain a legendary item. Placing a hand on his shoulder, the second soldier made it clear he didn't have a choice. Giving in, the first soldier handed over the box and fled the scene. Grinning, the second soldier celebrated, having finally obtained a golem relic. At last, the scene shifts to Evacuation Shelter 6, where Sora finally arrives. Observing the situation around him, Sora notes that the shelter hasn't been attacked yet. He walks among the crowd, catching the attention of everyone around him. Sora senses no powerful presence nearby, and worries that if no strong protector steps up, this place could eventually be destroyed. Suddenly, a man appears in front of Sora. Judging by his demeanor, Sora wonders if the man is blind. The stranger senses Sora's dense blood and assumes he must have come from the outside. Sora confirms it. The man smiles with relief and assures that he means no harm. He expresses a desire to purchase information about the outside world, hoping Sora might know something useful. Sora considers if this is the kind of currency used in this place and agrees to share what he knows. However, he first questions the man's choice of words, wondering why a monk would address him so respectfully. The man laughs and admits that the monk's outfit is merely a personal hobby. Sora also asks about the man hiding his eyes, to which the man claims he has recently contracted an eye disease. But Sora senses something far more powerful behind the man's concealed gaze. Even without seeing them, he can feel a terrifying light in the man's eyes, realizing this stranger is hiding immense power, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Sora then allows the man to ask his questions. The man explains that soldiers are gathering at the walls, preparing for battle, something the general public might not notice. He also mentions hearing explosions from outside and asks Sora to explain what's going on. Sora chuckles and admits he isn't totally sure either. He was running an errand when he heard a blast from the southwest. Startled, he dropped his letter and had to use his shirt as a makeshift map to find his way. The man seems intrigued, noting that Sora, too, is hiding his power. Thanking him, the man confirms the southwest direction, hands Sora some money, and leaves. Sora watches him go, surprised the man is heading out alone with such vague directions. He wonders how many others like him are out there. Sora reflects on how he's being allowed to wander freely, despite being a stranger, suggesting that humanity's guard might be down due to the shared threat they all face. Later, after purchasing new clothes with the money from the monk, Sora prepares to search for his parents. He decides to start the old-fashioned way. Approaching a woman, he shows her a photo and asks if she recognizes the couple. The woman looks shocked and quickly walks away, claiming she doesn't know them. Sora finds her reaction strange, as if she had seen a ghost, and wonders if everyone here is just on edge. At that moment, Sora notices a man behind him. The man calls out and Sora responds with a serious expression. The man nervously accuses Sora of wandering around at night and showing people pictures, questioning what era Sora thinks this is. Sora shows him the photo and asks if he recognizes the two people in it. The man grows agitated and demands to know why Sora has the photo. Sora replies that he is their son. Hearing this, the man is shocked and asks if Sora is really that kid, suspecting he might be making fun of him. Suddenly, a truck crashes into Sora from behind. Though the bus gets damaged, Sora remains completely unharmed. He calmly addresses the driver, asking him to repeat what he said. The man is stunned to see Sora and recognizes him after a long time. He directs Sora straight down the road to find their home. Sora thanks him and heads off. Once Sora leaves, the man runs off in a panic, realizing he needs to gather everyone. Meanwhile, Sora continues walking, thinking about how a thug knew where his parents lived. He recalls how his father was kind to everyone and his mother was the same, both easily taken advantage of in a world like this. But now, Sora is here. Arriving at the place, Sora assumes it must be their home. With so many people gone, empty houses are probably common. From inside, he hears a familiar voice and immediately recognizes it as his father's. As the door opens, his father steps out and, seeing Sora, angrily demands to know who he is. Sora calmly replies, introducing himself. It's him, Sora. Sora finally sat inside the house with his father. Just then, his mother walked in, apologizing for making them wait and noting that the two still hadn't spoken to each other. Sora's father admitted his disbelief, saying Sora felt like a completely different person from the one they used to know. At a time like this, what they needed most was an exchange of secrets between father and son. Privately, his father didn't want to reveal anything in front of his wife, but if Sora failed to give convincing answers, he wouldn't be let off easily. If anything even slightly suspicious came up, he'd be dealt with. His father glanced upward, where a man was secretly stationed, ready for action. Sora noticed the hidden man and realized his father was still cautious. With security this tight, Sora felt more relaxed. His father asked if he was ready. In his mind, Sora warned the henchman to brace himself, as he was about to hear things he shouldn't. Sora began by revealing that every weekend his father used to take cooking classes at the homemaker support group. Shocked, the father wondered how Sora knew that. Sora then added that he also secretly took ballet classes every week. The henchman whispered in disbelief. Ballet? Sora's father gave a sharp look toward the henchman, unsettling him. He tried to dismiss the information, claiming anyone could have figured that out without being his son. Sora offered to share something more personal about their family. When his father challenged him, Sora confidently responded that the Japanese sword in the room was just a replica. The henchman was surprised to hear that. Sora's father demanded proof. Sora replied that the hilt of the sword still bore bite marks from his brother. The henchman panicked, thinking those marks were from when the family head was bound and used the blade in his mouth to kill 38 people. He now feared that Sora's real goal was to catch the family head off guard and eliminate him. Sora pointed out that the sword could also retract. That moment broke the tension. His father moved forward and hugged him tightly, overjoyed and tearful, saying they had believed he was dead. Their son had finally returned home. He recalled all they'd been through, searching every landmark for clues about Sora. Somehow, during the process, he had become the boss of their organization, and now, that very boss was crying uncontrollably. He asked Sora if he could bring the man above them down. Seeing all this, the henchman was stunned. The family head, known for his honor and soaked in bloodshed throughout his life, was now a crying father. The henchman had never witnessed anything like it and desperately wanted to escape, pleading in his mind not to be killed. Sora, kneeling at the henchman's feet, politely asked him to wait, saying his father wanted to talk. Soon, all four of them sat together. The father addressed the henchman, whose name was Ochiai, pointing out that among all his guards, he had the loosest tongue. Sora warned that if anything leaked, it would be on Ochiai. The man promised to stay silent. In his thoughts, he finally accepted that there was no doubt Sora truly was the boss's son. Sora's mother told them not to threaten Ochiai. Her gentle words made him emotional, but she firmly added that not a single word must escape his mouth. Ochiai obeyed, replying respectfully. The father then expressed his relief that Sora hadn't mentioned anything about him farting or snoring in his sleep. His wife quipped that he had just brought it up himself. Sora felt like he had just climbed out of the abyss. He was truly home. At that moment, voices echoed behind him. A group of men entered, among them the same man who had earlier given Sora information about his father. Approaching the boss, he announced that a white-haired kid was looking for him. Upon hearing the mention of a white-haired kid, Sora curiously asked if they were referring to him. The man was startled upon seeing Sora and began shouting, claiming that although Sora might be strong, they had many people with them. He accused Sora of being from Tiger's Roar and warned him against doing anything to their group. Without responding, Sora calmly turned around and grabbed the man's leg, staring him down while standing tall. He then suggested to his father that he should introduce him to his men. His father responded, revealing that Sora was his son who had been missing for 5 years and had just returned. He started to mention Sora's level but paused, realizing he had no idea what it was. Sora clarified that he didn't have the system. One of the men was shocked, asking if Sora had really survived in the Fallen Zones for 5 years without a system. Another man pointed out that without the system one couldn't train beyond level 10, expressing disbelief at Sora being considered strong. The first man admitted he must have been mistaken, but deep down, he was puzzled, wondering how Sora had survived that earlier impact without getting hurt if he was truly a beginner. Sora offered them a chance to check his level using their own system. The man responded, explaining that without the inspect skill, a person could only see monster levels, not the levels of other people. His father added that the inspect skill was rare among hunters, but the boss had it. Sora told his dad to go ahead and check. In his thoughts, Sora wished he could gain some information about the abyss. He then turned to his mother and asked if she wasn't curious to check. She replied that more than anything, she just wanted to stay by his side and already knew. After trying, Sora's dad announced that he couldn't see any information no matter how hard he tried. He proposed 2 possibilities. Either Sora had no system, or his level was simply too high to be read. However, even without the system, his name should still be visible, and Sora had survived alone for 5 years. If he were truly a beginner, he would have been long dead. This led him to conclude that Sora's level was likely far beyond his perception. He wondered what Sora had been doing all those years. Sora's mom gently reminded them to be happy. Sora had returned strong, and whatever he had gone through, he was back now. These words moved Sora, bringing tears to his eyes. He hugged his mother, assuring her that it was all right and asked her not to cry. Seeing this, even his father became emotional. He quickly ordered the others to leave the room, stating that a mother and her child had been reunited after a long time and needed privacy. Once outside, he quietly asked the others about Jiro and the rest, noting that it had been 2 hours and they still hadn't returned. Back inside, Sora asked his mother about his brother. She reassured him that his brother was fine but rarely came home due to being in the military. She offered to call him, explaining that he had been fighting on the front lines, almost as if trying to avenge Sora. Sora mentioned how long it had been since he last saw his brother. He then asked his mom if she held a high-ranking position. She explained that although she had status, the real reason people trusted her was because she was a cleric, a healer with many support abilities and even the gift of prophecy. Sora asked if she could see what was going on with him. She admitted she didn't have the ability to see skills. He then questioned how she had known he would return. She simply said that, as a cleric, she had the power of prophecy and always knew he would come back one day. Suddenly, someone arrived at the house. Sora's father stepped out to check and was surprised to see that it was the vice chief. As Vice Chief Jiro Iwashima entered, Sora's father welcomed him warmly. Jiro, the vice president of the United Guilds, looked troubled. Sora's father noticed this and asked if something had happened. He'd already ordered an investigation behind the scenes and wanted to know what was discovered. Jiro explained that Tiger's Roar was indeed connected to the army, just as suspected. They had submitted monster carcasses to the military as usual. However, a man with a notebook began nitpicking during inspection. He made up an excuse, awarded them only half the points, and then reported the full amount to his superiors. Upon further review, all discrepancies pointed back to Tiger's Roar. Understanding the situation, Sora's father realized things were worse than they appeared. If Tiger's Roar, which was supposed to be neutral, was behaving like this, there had to be more behind it. But he knew they couldn't just sit back and let it slide. It would endanger the town's future. For now, he told Jiro to rest and get some food. As he summoned his sword, he declared that he would visit Tiger's Roar himself and set things straight. The United Guilds wasn't so naive to be trampled on without consequence. Meanwhile, in his room, Sora was deep in thought. Thanks to the Black Shard, all his abilities had gone into overdrive. It wasn't just his strength. His senses had sharpened to the point where he could hear distant sounds. He suspected Kagawa and the robbers were also connected to Tiger's Roar. Now, with his father preparing to confront them, he felt concerned. Stepping out of his room, Sora told his father he was coming along. A man nearby observed this, thinking it might be a chance to witness Sora's true powers. Jiro, curious, asked who Sora was. Sora's father introduced him as his son, who had been missing in the Fallen Zone for 5 years. Shocked, Jiro asked if he had survived alone and what his level was. Sora's father revealed that Sora didn't possess the system. This led Jiro to assume Sora was just a normal person. Jiro silently thought that without the system, no one could survive more than 3 days in any shelter. It was possible only with elite stats and top survival skills, but without job skills, someone like Sora would become a liability in battle. Smiling, Jiro expressed concern for Sora's well-being and suggested he rest instead. Sora's father agreed and told him to stay with his mother. Their mother chimed in, saying she hadn't even shown him around the house yet. Sora, realizing they thought he wouldn't be useful in battle, wasn't surprised. To others with the system, he was just an ordinary human. He admitted to himself that he still didn't fully understand this shelter situation. If the monster he suspected was real, he would need to hide his true powers to keep his parents safe. He agreed to stay behind. The man who wanted to observe him silently lamented missing his chance to witness Sora's abilities. Soon after, Sora's father and the others left. Sora's mother comforted him, saying not to worry. His father was just concerned for his safety after being reunited. She assured him everything would be fine. Her vision ability had always been able to foresee danger, and it told her his father would return safely from this too. Sora replied calmly, stating he was no longer a child. Still, he couldn't ignore the danger. Even though his mother could see danger through prophecies, he knew Tiger's Roar's connection with the military would cause more conflicts with his father in the future. He then asked about the current situation in the shelter, and why Tiger's Roar had become hostile toward them. His mother explained that after Judgment Day, a hunter guild formed by the Awakened joined forces with the military to manage the shelters. His father founded the United Guilds and cooperated with the military at Evacuation Shelter 6 in hopes of finding Sora. The guild grew because people were inspired by his vow to reunite families. The United Guilds maintained order, scavenged supplies, and fought monsters. The military handled breaches and tower raids. His father had always avoided sending his own people into breaches to preserve peace. But several months ago, Tiger's Roar, a powerful guild from Shelter 4, established a branch here. Since then, conflict with them never ceased. Sora asked why the military didn't interfere. His mother explained that the enemies had grown too strong, and the military couldn't handle them alone anymore. Tiger's Roar, founded for tower clearing, was so powerful that the military now depended on them. The guild also held valuable tower raid information, making them impossible to ignore. More importantly, they had an Awakened chosen by the tower deity, their true trump card. When Sora asked about the tower deity, his mother explained they were lords of the towers, their power comparable to a god's. Those who passed their trials became Ezras, receiving divine power. These Ezras were seen as divine messengers outside the towers and guardians within them. Tiger's Roar had the most Ezras and quickly devoured every neighboring guild. Although his father's guild was beloved, they had never cleared a tower and were the only ones in the Union without an Ezra. Hearing this, Sora realized how bad the situation really was. But he also noticed something odd. If people loved the United Guilds so much, why did they act like a Yakuza group? His mother laughed and said that was just her personal preference. To her, what mattered most was that everyone was happy and full of energy. Playfully, she shoved Sora into the bathroom, saying he was tired and needed a bath. She offered to wash his back if he wanted, but Sora quickly declined, insisting he could handle it himself. Alone, Sora grew serious again. Now aware of how grave things were, he couldn't shake off his concern for his father. With that thought, he escaped out the window and ran off into the night. Watching him flee, his mother sighed and remarked to herself that children could be quite a handful sometimes. Sora's father was on his way to the Tiger's Roar Guild, accompanied by members of the Union Guild. Meanwhile, Sora stood on top of a building, staring into the distance. Everything except the center was pitch black, which he considered a good thing. It made the center easier to find. As he scanned the darkness, he spotted the group. A strange dizziness washed over him, and he noted that ever since being strengthened by the fragments of the abyss, he hadn't even caught a cold. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his ears, accusing him of being the seed of the abyss and declaring that escape was not an option. The voice startled Sora. He instantly recognized it as someone familiar. The presence was completely hidden, and Sora couldn't sense anything. He realized that the voice's owner had indeed been in Shelter 6. The dizziness intensified. The voice returned, claiming Sora's soul had been marked and there was no escape. At that moment, Sora saw a shadow behind him. Reacting quickly, he turned and struck, but it was just an illusion. He began to suspect that this might be the soul marking. Again, the voice repeated the same chilling message. Suddenly, a light flashed from below. Someone had noticed him and asked why he was there so late at night. Realizing he had shouted, Sora knew he'd drawn attention. He fled from the scene, noticing that the illusion had vanished. He stopped at a quiet spot, and once again, the voice echoed in his head. He wondered if the illusion had disappeared due to the light and decided to test it. Stepping into a well-lit area, Sora started to understand what was happening. If he remained in darkness for 7 seconds, the soul marking activated, causing intense dizziness. Losing his composure changed the nature of the dialogue. He could see the face of the one targeting him, but only him. When he walked under a light, a screeching noise pierced his mind. Eventually, the marking would vanish, and the hallucinations stopped. He realized that daylight and household lights had likely protected him before. But now, there was the danger of a sudden ambush, so he had to stay alert. First, he needed to find his father. Sora continued walking along the roadside. He confirmed that the figure didn't appear when light was present. If what his mother had said was true, that the United Guilds were no longer useful to the military, then his father might be in danger. Sora didn't know how many powerful enemies remained in the shelter, but it was unlikely that the military, now allied with the Tiger's Roar Guild, would stay passive. It was highly probable they planned to destroy the United Guilds. In that case, Sora resolved to protect his parents, even if it meant eliminating everyone. He questioned whether peace could ever return. Soon, he reached the location and observed the gathering silently. He wondered how his father would handle the discussions. Violence, as he believed, should be the last resort, something only to be used when no other option remained. But would his father hold out until the very last moment, even now? He overheard voices from the crowd. They cleared the way, noting that something was about to begin. It had been a long time since their boss had drawn his sword. The last time, his slash had left a scar nearly 20 meters long on his opponent. Without hesitation, Sora's father unsheathed his sword and, with full force, unleashed a powerful slash at the building in front of him. The strike cleaved the entire structure in two, reducing it to crumbling debris. The crowd erupted in joy and excitement. Sora stood frozen, stunned by the overwhelming power of his father. Sora approached a man nearby and asked if the boss had always behaved that way. The man replied, surprised that Sora didn't know, saying the boss was known for jumping into fights quickly. Sora mentioned that the boss used to say violence should be the last resort. The man explained that back then, the boss still believed the military would fix everything. But over time, things changed. For the military, as long as hunters did their jobs and civilians weren't starving, they didn't care about minor fights. They wouldn't bother managing every conflict. That's why settling matters with fists had become the fastest solution. If someone couldn't win in a fight, there was no need to talk, and if they could win, talking wouldn't help anyway. In short, hit first, then talk. Sora thought back to the monk he had seen and wondered if strong people usually avoided making trouble. He questioned whether he misunderstood, or if people with as much power as his dad could rampage freely. Or perhaps the monk had just been blindfolded for formality's sake. Meanwhile, a man named Yukio Shuzenji stood on top of a building. He was level 75 and activated his keen eye, observing a level 90 boss that looked torn apart without any signs of heavy weapon damage. Yukio tied a cloth over his eyes and noted how scary it was that so many powerful people still existed. He reminded himself to proceed with caution. Sora's father and his allies finally reached their destination. Their opponents approached from the other side. One of them shouted, asking if they still thought things were the same as when the evacuation shelters were built. Sora's father replied that things had definitely changed, especially with the appearance of irritating enemies like them. He regretted not eliminating them back then. The opponent taunted him to finish it now, questioning if he was scared. Sora's father responded firmly, not willing to ignore the provocation. The opponent, noticing the sword in Sora's father's hand, got nervous and thought he had provoked him enough, urging the boss to attack. Trying to escalate the situation further, the man accused Sora's father of being too cowardly to draw his sword, suggesting he would be better off becoming fuel for Tiger's Roar. Without a word, Sora's father suddenly drew his sword and launched an attack. The man used his shield to block the strike. Just then, another man named Osamu stepped forward, criticizing the decision to start a fight inside a shelter. Seeing Osamu, members of Sora's father's team were surprised, wondering if Osamu had sided with Tiger's Roar and why he was even there. Sora realized that Osamu might be the soldier supporting Tiger's Roar. It didn't feel like a coincidence to him, especially considering the number of people hidden inside the building. Sora's father also recognized Osamu and understood he was the one backing Tiger's Roar. Osamu cited Article 15 of the Temporary Shelter Security Act, declaring that dueling in shelters was forbidden and punishable by at least 15 days of imprisonment, or even the death penalty depending on severity. He asked if they would comply with the rules. Understanding the trap, Sora's father realized they wanted to provoke him and then use the law against him. If he retaliated, they'd arrest him under legal grounds. He knew Osamu wasn't worried about being exposed for corruption. Once imprisoned, they could extend his sentence indefinitely or make him disappear in an unfortunate accident. Without him, the United Guilds would fall to Tiger's Roar and others. He couldn't understand why the military was going this far to disrupt the balance in suspected internal power struggles. Still, he refused to admit guilt. Calmly, Sora's father stated that there was a misunderstanding. He insisted there was no duel between him and the opponent, and that, as a supporter of the United Guilds, he couldn't admit to a crime without evidence. Osamu pointed to the sword marks as clear evidence of a duel. Sora's father responded that while the marks might be real, they were evidence of building renovations, not a duel. But Osamu didn't back down. He told Sora's father that the decision wasn't his to make. If Osamu declared it was evidence of a duel, then it was. According to him, the moment Sora's father stepped into the shelter, he had already lost. He demanded he submit quietly and accept arrest. One of Sora's dad's men spoke up, ready to fight if needed, but the dad calmed him down, pointing out that the enemies were within range and wouldn't risk shooting. Assessing the situation, Sora's dad noted that a level 63 opponent wouldn't be easy to stop, especially quick classes like assassins. He considered taking Tsuchida hostage to break through. Then, he drew his sword. The opponent immediately raised his shield, mentally preparing himself. As an agent, he believed his defensive skills gave him an edge. Sword shields couldn't block every weapon, but against swords, they worked beyond their level. Confidently, he thought even a level 69 warrior couldn't cut through it, so Mukujima wouldn't stand a chance. He shouted at Mukujima to give up. Osamu stepped forward, demanding surrender. He warned that if Mukujima didn't comply, he and his allies would be jailed. In response, Sora's dad quietly sheathed his sword and pointed it toward the enemy. His comrades were shocked. Osamu mocked the apparent surrender, calling it a wise decision. One of the allies felt insulted, while another wondered if the earlier attack had been just for show. Another tried to explain that the boss was doing it to protect them. The vice chief understood the hidden signal. When the boss raised his sword, it meant to prepare, and if he let go, it was time to strike. It was a skill only the boss and he shared. As the sword disappeared from Mukujima's hand, his opponent grew cautious. Suddenly, Mukujima charged forward. The opponent remained confident, relying on the sword-blocking spell of his shield. Mukujima summoned his sword again, and the opponent still believed it couldn't break the shield. But the vice chief activated his skill, merging stones onto Mukujima's sword, transforming it into a massive hammer. With this weapon, Mukujima shattered the opponent's shield in a single blow. The stunned man realized too late. It wasn't a sword, but a hammer. Mukujima then reached forward. Just then, Osamu attacked from behind with a knife, threatening execution if Mukujima even touched him. The vice chief acted swiftly, using his skill to raise sharp rocks from the ground, blocking Osamu's attack. The shield bearer shouted to his team, calling Mukujima insane and ordering them to kill him. They opened fire. The vice chief created a stone shield to block the bullets. Mukujima saw a chance. If they could immobilize the enemy, they could retreat. As he moved in to strike, the shield bearer vanished. Mukujima was caught off guard. Osamu laughed, revealing that the vice chief's stone trap had allowed him to use the assassin skill, Shadow Trance, by marking lingering magic on Tsuchida's broken shield. Now, with no hostage, he claimed Mukujima had lost. Everyone, including Mukujima, the vice chief, and the rest, were suddenly stunned. Osamu questioned their surprise. But behind him, Sora appeared and repeated his words, catching Osamu off guard. Osamu was shocked. He couldn't identify Sora and assumed he was an enemy reinforcement. Realizing Sora had snuck behind him, even as an assassin, Osamu decided to act first. He reached for a deadly poison. The shield bearer noticed it and recognized it as the powerful toxin Tiger's Roar had prepared to defeat a level 90 boss. He was shocked Osamu had taken it. Suddenly, Osamu dashed forward and hurled a twin-bladed sword at Sora. Mukujima's eyes widened in alarm, and the shield bearer panicked, realizing Osamu intended to kill everyone. A thick fog spread across the area, causing everyone to fall. The shield bearer thought the situation was terrible, but at least believed Mukujima's ally was dead. However, both Osamu and the shield bearer were grabbed from behind. The shield bearer was shocked. Someone could still move? He couldn't believe it, as the poison was strong enough to kill a level 90 boss. Osamu stared at the one grabbing him, his thoughts racing. He began to fear the truth. This person was no ordinary man. He was a monster.
Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.